On this podcast, we will talk about the tools we have used in order to remind us who and what we are.
We will talk about the spiritual technologies that bring us back to the knowing that we are sovereign.
That bring us back to God. The only actual advice you will get on this podcast is to consult within.
The rest is all the things that happen when you do it.
My name is Jasai.
And my name is Stori.
And this is Sovereign You. Hi. Welcome to Sovereign You. My name is Jasai.
My name is Stori.
And we are here today to have a chat, a conversation, like we do every week, at least the weeks we're here.
Yes.
Welcome again to season 2. Thank you so much for joining us, for coming back, engaging this space with us. Today's conversation is about levels of a consciousness. This is what we are talking about today. Now, listen, it could feel big, weighty. Let it be light. Let it be light, because this is a really accessible conversation. Consciousness is sort of the levels at which we experience the world, experience each other. Am I experiencing you with my analytical mind, with my thinking mind? Am I experiencing you with my heart mind? Am I experiencing you? Yeah, so this is all about how we are experiencing each other and the world and ourselves.
Yeah.
So before we dive into that conversation, one of my favorite parts of the podcast is the holy inquiry, because I get to get in your business. I get to know you. Mm-hmm. So today's question is interesting. So listen, because it's full.
Okay.
What is the most consistent vision of yourself that you have had since you were a child?
Ooh, since I was a child? Oh my gosh. To take care of people and things.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, I would say, because that's incorporated in what we do here. And initially it started off as wanting to be a vet.
Oh.
So I wanted to take care of animals, and I wanted to be an animal doctor. So I guess the energy of that has continued in my current practice of making sure that other people are okay and taking care of other people and myself. Making sure that I'm well. I feel like what we do at Alio is we make sure that we're well, and then we teach other people how to take care of themselves in that same way.
Beautiful. What I love most about your answer is that it was available to you. It was so readily available. Like you could see yourself as a through line, as a through story, even though the iterations of that have changed.
Yes.
Which is super dope, because that means you're still here with yourself. Same self, same
intention.
Essential self, and same essential intention, even though life goes on and we grow up and we change and circumstance changes. Who you are fundamentally and how you see yourself fundamentally is still working itself out.
Yeah. And what about you?
I like that. So since I was a child, I have been trained towards and curious about the psyche. So when I was a kid, it looked like being interested in all things psychic, like when psychics were on TV. I was always interested in how people could see the unseen.
Okay.
Engage like they were engaging with a real material thing, but no one could see it. I was always very intrigued by that. My curiosity would lean in that direction. If there were shows about magic, shows about, all things that sort of are like, ooh, how did that happen?
Okay,
always
mystical.
been. Yes, mystical things has always been very, very interesting and engaging to my spirit. And obviously, I'm still tracking out here.
Yeah.
So beautiful. I love to hear that. That, of course, plays right directly into our subject matter today, levels of consciousness. So again, Stori and I are very intentional with this podcast. So we have conversations about what we're going to talk to you about. We have conversations with each other about what these things mean to us.
Yeah.
But today we decided that we weren't going to really chop it up about them, so that the conversations here are super authentic. They're super in the moment. So this conversation about levels of consciousness was your idea.
Yes.
Tell me why. Tell me what made you, in the moment where you said, Mom, I think we should talk about this. Tell me how that engaged you.
Because I realized that your consciousness is also kind of the beginning of your perspective, right? And how you receive and internalize what's going on in front of you. And I learned that, I feel like I learned that through a specific experience, but I can't really recall it. But yeah, I mostly feel like when you talk to people, when you're trying to explain something to somebody, if they're not under the same consciousness as you, the words you say to them can literally be received in a whole different way.
Listen, it probably is the most important knowing when you're talking about relationships that you could have in hand.
Yeah.
That I feel like this is why religions talk about not being unequally yoked. It doesn't have anything to do with believing the same things. It really, at another level of consciousness, being unequally yoked really results in what I'm saying to you can't really find you at the level I'm offering it, because you're at a different level. And so, of course, I am communicating to you, but your reception, because we're receivers, your reception of what I'm saying, if you're here and I'm here, it's going to miss. So that is really valuable. And it's going to happen. It is going to happen out here in a world full of billions of people, that we're going to say things and do things at our level of consciousness, and other people are going to receive them at their level of consciousness.
Absolutely.
And so it may seem like a misfire.
Yeah.
How is that? Why is that? Where are you seeing that as important in your life?
Where is consciousness important in my life?
Like in your everyday experience, are levels of consciousness and the impact of various levels of consciousness showing itself and impacting you and being something you need to navigate, like in real life situations?
Yeah, because I'm trying to make the separation between information and consciousness, because I feel like two people could know the same things but interpret it differently because of their level of consciousness. So I would say, like, for example, a great example is I came across a reel the other day, and it was like the impact. It was a woman basically talking about the impact, or showing the impact of this whole Barbie phenomenon, right? And as it relates to fast fashion. Because what's going to happen is that all these clothes that people buy, they're just going to then decide, what am I going to do with this bright fluorescent pink outfit? You know what I'm saying? A lot of people are going to throw it away. They're going to discard it. They're not going to be even, drawn to wear that, because they went out and bought that for the movie.
For a thing.
And so what that does to our environment, it really has a super negative impact on our water. It has a negative impact on, when it ends up in our landfills, and things like that. So I feel like how consciousness applies to that is that you would actually you have to be under the consciousness of being aware of your personal impact on our environment. And you would have to care about that, because there's some people who are under a whole different consciousness of, I wore this outfit and I'm never going to wear it again.
Or I wore this outfit because this Barbie movie was super important to me, and now the Barbie movie is over. I didn't really think about, because that wasn't built into my intention, I didn't really think about what the impact was of me engaging in this phenomena for the 5 days that it was popular on the whole rest of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
And some people might say, well, that's far-fetched. That's wide. Like, you're asking me to sort of shoot wide here when I'm making everyday decisions. Yeah. That's a level of consciousness.
Yes, it is.
Yes, that is a level of consciousness. When I'm making decisions in my everyday life, my level of consciousness is broadly inclusive, because I am conscious of the fact that I am here and a lot is going on here, not just my particular narrow level of interest.
Yeah. And I would say, and so that's a great example to me, because it's not new information that our everyday experiences have an impact on our environment. That's not new information, but it's whether or not that's even a part of your everyday consciousness. Do you consciously think about that? Is that a part of how you think about the world and think about your impact on the world?
So I have a tough question for you.
Okay.
How does someone change their level of consciousness? So if consciousness is kind of like this bookshelf,
Okay.
and I want to get from this level of consciousness to this level of consciousness, what would I do?
I would say that you need to meditate, because meditation, I believe meditation is a great tool for that, because it allows you to sit with what you're already feeling. And as human beings, naturally, we're already sensitive. And so meditation brings you closer to your sensitivity in a way that you can be aware of it. Okay. I'm aware of these impacts, whether it be, because I think sometimes we run away from our thoughts. We run away from the things that cause us to feel sensitive, that cause us to feel vulnerable, when they're really worth looking at. So I think that meditation just brings you a broader sense of awareness. Stillness brings you to a broader sense of awareness. And in that awareness, you become a lot more sensitive in a way that allows you to confront your sensitivity and confront the things that make you feel sensitive.
I love that. That's an inside act. That's a going inward act. I'm going to share that I also think it's super, super valuable in the journey to raising your consciousness, to engage other people and other opinions and other voices and other ideas that might not necessarily currently be yours, and then just sit with that. Don't engage those ideas to be right, to share even your opinion, but to really be in the midst of energy that's not similar to yours, so that you can see how you are gauging, how your energy is responding, and then just be with that. Breathe through that. See, oh goodness, this is what I think. Like, there's all kinds of thought processes and levels of consciousness out here. This happens to be mine. And I think that if you, in that practice of engaging the outside world, engaging people and ideas, if you do that and you sit still and you watch how your energy comes up and what your mind has to say, but you just sit with that and you breathe through that and you let what is coming in with your inhale expand you and expand your consciousness, and then what is going out with your exhale, free itself from you, so that you can make room for whatever adjustments might bring you to a higher level of consciousness. Could be super, super helpful.
And I also wanted to kind of not switch the conversation, but kind of go into how music has a role in that, because we've talked about trance and things like that. And so I think another way to raise your level of consciousness is to deliberately change the frequency with which you let in. And so a lot recently I've been listening to spa music, which is mostly just like natural sounds and water, as opposed to listening to like what I would listen to before, like rap and R&B and things like that, because I'm letting in the information, the intention of these artists that might not necessarily be aligned with my intentions. And to add to that, I'm also a type of person too that if I like the cadence of a song, or if I like the beat in a song or the music in a song, I will listen to it over and over and over and over again.
And sometimes despite the lyrics.
And exactly. And it wasn't until I was like 17 years old that I realized that I was under the impression before I got to like maybe about 17, 18 years old, I didn't even care what a song was saying. And I would listen to it over and over again. And I think that in that state, when you are listening to music repeatedly, that is trance.
It is trance.
You are literally putting yourself in a trance-like state. And especially if, you're listening to the music and then you just get up and you just start dancing, because I love to dance too. So now I'm literally letting my body flow.
You're opening your body to receive even more of the energy of that thing. And again, so the level of consciousness that we have about this literally makes us move differently. That's the impact of consciousness. The level of consciousness that you are at currently is governing how you move.
Absolutely.
Now, most of us aren't experiencing that on any level except affect. We're not experiencing that at the level of cause. And so we start to say, oh, I don't like this part of my life, or I don't like how my life is moving in this direction, or I don't like how this set of friends is feeling. But because we don't understand cause and we're just being impacted in a negative way, we really do have to stop. We have to stop and make ourselves aware. So again, the meditation helps with that.
Yeah.
At Alio, we have amplified offerings, amplified practices, and a lot of those amplified practices are refraining practices for that reason, because you can't just change your life midstream. It'd be like driving a car at 45 miles an hour going down Lancashire and deciding I'm gonna hit a left at 45 miles an hour. Anybody who knows anything about driving knows that you cannot hit a left without slowing down. Yes. And so these techniques, these tools, these technologies that we espouse, really most of them are all about stopping and slowing down, literally for that reason, because it's really safer. It helps you see and assess where you are and what you're doing and how you're behaving. So then it makes sense. At some point it makes sense. Oh, that this behavior is giving me this impact. Because the music thing became super, super clear to me. In my 20s, I remember driving to Lancaster. Lancaster from my house at the time is about an hour drive. And I was, I'm a music person like you. So I was playing my music, and Kelly Price was popular in my world at the time. And I'm listening to the Kelly Price lyrics, and suddenly, and for some reason that I can't, sort of understand why, I certainly wasn't conscious. I think God intervened, and these are the graces that God allows, that God intervened and transformed the perspective, because perspective has a lot to do with consciousness as well.
Absolutely.
It transformed the perspective of me singing to like a material lover, to a material love, to another person. It changed my perspective so that those lyrics were a conversation or a love note to me and God. I've never been the same again.
Yeah. Because
that level of consciousness will change how you move, how you are. I have never been able to, and then I was willing to and interested in, because it was so impactful. Like, I started to cry. I started to practice listening to music in that way. So I would turn on a love song, because God did the calculation in my mind immediately too. Like, the reason why these songs are so painful so often for us when the relationships go bad is because we're focusing our intention in the wrong direction when we're listening to them. We're thinking about a person. We're thinking about the past. But if you start thinking about deep and abiding and unending and unfailing love, even in your favorite love song, but think about God, it literally changes your whole frequency. It amplifies your energy.
Yeah.
Consciousness also can alter the way you process information. So at certain levels of consciousness, it is literally difficult to take things in, which is why when people are at a lower frequency, and I'm going to say that because that's a real scientific thing. There are frequencies at all kinds of levels.
Yeah, like when you're more focused on survival.
Yes,
and things
that's
like
a
that.
lower frequency when you're in survival mode. And it also is a denser frequency. So the density of this table is what it is because of the frequency at which it vibrates. Well, human beings are exactly like that. So if you're operating in survival mode, it literally is harder to take in information. And we can see that in our families. We can see that in our immediate circles. People who are always scrambling, always trying to get money, always trying to make sure that they have the basic bare necessities. You talk to them about certain things that are at a different frequency, and they're like,
it feels irrelevant.
I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
I don't want it.
If it doesn't have to do with these survival
things,
basics,
they can't. They literally can't. And it's not even like they don't want to or they won't do it. The density at which they're operating doesn't allow it to permeate.
Or just trying to teach people like like, even if you were to talk about the conversation of making money, teaching people that in the long term, if you do X, Y, and Z, you can make more money than scrambling in the short term. If you're scrambling, it's too hard to even imagine waiting to get, or taking a new path and having to wait to get money.
Yeah. I feel encouraged right now in my spirit, just in this moment, because Spirit's saying to me, but you can share with people that everything is happening at various levels. So there is a getting money at every level.
And that's why I feel like entrepreneurship is so challenging for a lot of people, because they just want money now.
Yeah. Yeah. And at a denser frequency, what you have to do to get money now feels like a real, push up against the wall. Yeah. When you're at a different frequency, about flow. About polarity. That challenging things do have to happen because polarity. But that doesn't mean amazing things aren't happening. And in fact, when challenging things are happening, so I've been able to do this recently, particularly because of my trance practice and the things that I do every day, I can see in real time. So pause. When you're in particular states of consciousness, there is a learning mechanism in every state of consciousness. In higher states of consciousness, your learning mechanism is more wide open. So I can see in real time when I'm in my practice, I'm having a tough moment right now. But if I use my breathing and I follow my breathing and I move through that process with my breathing, the thing I get to watch in the same way I have the patience to watch clouds move when the average person probably be like, I'm not going to stand here this long to be able to perceive a cloud moving. That I get to watch that my states change. They change so often.
Yeah.
My state of mind changes so often that now I'm like, oh no, I don't have to grab that state if that state isn't beneficial to me. Yeah. I know it's here, but what I know about this and everything is that it will pass. That is what a higher level of consciousness will allow for you to do. And somebody might be frustrated with that and say, but if you're not there, all you have to do is practice it to be there.
Yeah. And speaking of states, when you initially asked me the question of how consciousness plays into my everyday life, my initial state was a little bit like pressed for an answer. But now that we've been in the flow of the conversation, I did want to bring up how I've been just deciding every day that I feel that my mind is overthinking, or that I feel that my mind is trying to just be overreactive. It's not taking action. It's just thinking. In that, I've learned to practice to just tell myself to create peace. Like to find peace. And when I do that, my thoughts clear. And so that's what I've been doing daily, really. When I start to overthink, when my thoughts start to scramble themselves, like with everything that I have to do in a week or in a day, I literally just tell myself, I'm going to find peace right now. I'm going to be at peace right now. And it eliminates my thought.
And it does that every time?
Yes.
And it does that every time?
Yes.
Because that's what people need to know. It does it every time. It does it every time. It won't fail you. This is how our mechanisms work.
You have to tell. Well, I've learned that I have to tell myself, because if I'm the conductor of this body,
yes,
if I'm the manager, if you will, like God is the source,
yes,
but I'm the manager. And so if I'm the manager, I have to tell myself, especially when there may be, let's say my mind or my thoughts are an employee. If there's an employee that's constantly doing things that are out of line, I have to manage it, and I have to be like, no, this is the instruction.
This is how this goes.
And literally instructing your abilities, instructing your faculties. Is that a good word?
Yeah, listen, instructing it's the word.
Yeah, instructing your faculties is what you have to do.
That's
because
your job.
Or else your mind will just go on. Because nobody's instructing.
Nobody's in charge
here.
There's
no principles. There's nothing that's stopping it from doing that. But you.
And so that begs the question, why is it like that? Why are our minds not just automatically on our side? Because what we have fed our minds didn't always come from us. It comes from various feeds.
Yes, and that's another thing. I have definitely, even before I was instructing myself to be in a peaceful state, I definitely have been being very careful about what I take in. Because literally, if you think of your thoughts, experience, and your just whole life as a kind of field, you are literally, whatever you take in is coming up. Yeah. And so that your thoughts are literally, and that's why meditation is so important, because meditation allows you to see what's really coming up.
Yes.
What you already put in. So you may sit there, and I feel like for people who are just starting to meditate, meditation is uncomfortable. That's good. You need to know what's causing the discomfort and remove that from your experience immediately. Because if you're not taking things in that are bringing you peace,
you won't have any.
Why are you taking it in?
And why are you expecting peace?
Yeah.
If your program, if your computer, if your vehicle is not programmed, like if I go into my GPS and I program Pasadena and I'm in a Tesla and I let my Tesla auto drive me and I program Pasadena, what sense does it make to be confused that I'm not driving to Long Beach? No, you're not driving to Long Beach because you programmed Pasadena into this automatic vehicle.
And even if you decided midway, if we're going to go with that analogy, even if you decided midway you wanted to go to Long Beach,
you'd have to reprogram.
You got to reprogram. You can't just decide
right
without no effort, without no action, because a Tesla is a real thing.
That's a real thing.
So you have to type that in. There has to be an action associated with this change.
Yes.
And so it can't just be the thought to want to change.
And this is so much of what's happening in this initiation program that I have decided to undertake by Ra'un Nefer Amen, who is the author of The Metu Neter. Mm-hmm. Because what he is offering through this vehicle of Kemetic spirituality, ancient Kemetic spirituality, is it is teaching us that we are faculties, that there is a Godhead, and that Godhead has given us faculties. Now, most of us understand these faculties as personalities or how we are, attributed a lot of times to our sign, sun sign, moon sign. These are our faculties. Now, these things govern how we are. Most of the people into astrology, they get that. They read their chart and they're like, oh, that's why I'm like this. Well, everybody has 11 of them. The astrology is 12.
The houses.
The houses. So everybody has all of them. You're not just a Leo. You're not just a Virgo. You're not just a Sagittarius.
And you don't have all of them, but you have different ones. And unless your chart is literally all one sign, which I've never seen.
What I'm saying is that, so we're going to get into all the things as the seasons go by, that the way astrology is presented to us in the Western world isn't the way. It isn't the way that astrology has always been offered to humanity.
Okay.
That like language in America, in the West, is truncated. So there aren't words in English that there are a bunch of expressions for in other cultures. We don't have it all. Mm-hmm. And this is what we're finding when people are studying and when people are going back to fetch it. They're finding, oh, they gave us this thing, but they cut this part off. That there are practices that we are engaged in that are resonating with us because there is some truth in it, but they're not whole. That we are whole beings, divine beings. We have all of the faculties, and some of them are just more exercised than others.
Yeah.
That if we get still and we decide, oh, no, I'm going to engage the whole of my being, and I'm going to start here because this is where I am, then we begin to unfold like a flower. And then we get to work with all the parts of our being, all the parts of our person and personalities so that we can have a full life. Because that's what everybody wants. I want a full life. I don't want to be pigeonholed. I don't want to be seen as just this one thing. I don't want to. But if we don't know that we're more than one thing, and if we don't engage all the parts of us, if we don't know how to live at every level of consciousness or operate depending on what the situation is at every level of consciousness, yeah, we miss a ton.
Yeah.
We miss a ton.
And so that brings us into the book segment.
All right. Beautiful. Is this you today?
Yes.
Oh, I like it.
The book I have today is Creativity, Unleashing the Forces Within by OSHO. And it says Insights for a New Way of Living. And so this is a great book to me because I just started reading it like maybe 2 days ago. And in the first few pages, Osho was talking about how we really have to, in order to not, when we're talking about creativity, in order to not be a copy of someone else or of the world around us or of our culture, in order to be new, which is basically what creativity is in essence, we have to, first of all, stop taking in so many inputs. So stillness is a part of that. But creativity is really action. And so I don't know, for some reason I didn't think of it that way before. I thought creativity kind of not only existed in the mind, but was mostly in the mind. And so when he was talking about creativity as action, that made so much sense to me. And it's action and not activity. So that was another thing that he spoke about. And activity is just busying yourself. When you're, and he talks about it a lot, like activity is past. Like it's associated with the past. And so the way that
things you're remembering to do as opposed to things you're being called to do in a moment.
Okay. Yeah. So and that's the way that I perceived it as well, because I'm just like, a lot of the times we'll have ideas to do something and we don't take action on them, but they're in our mind. And then once we have the ability to, now we're just doing a whole bunch of things in the present moment that really were created and manifested in our mind months ago or years ago, and it has nothing to do with what needs to be done now,
because the moment changes. And that's super important for people to understand, that no two moments are the same, no two breaths are the same, have ever been the same. And if we think about that, like if you just pause and you think, there literally have never been two identical moments ever in the history of ever, then you know how important it is to be here.
Yeah. So yeah, it really is important to be present, and it really is important to not just busy yourself so that your ego feels like it's getting something done.
Yeah. And when we say that, so I'm in my practices and in the spaces where I'm teaching, I'm telling people, I mean these words literally. It is really important to be here. If wherever you are listening to this, I want you to wiggle your toes. It's important for you to be where that wiggling is happening. There are no other real places. If God is going to inspire you with a thought, if God is going to tap you on your shoulder and say, call your mama, if God is going to do anything for your benefit on your behalf, God is doing it in the right now, right here where your breathing is happening. So this is all too for creatives, particularly for people who are spurred on the inside and have a burning on the inside for creativity, which I feel like is most humans, frankly, because God is the creator.
I think
and
that
we
a
are
lot
creatives.
of people, I feel that a lot of people though too, like when people come into the studio and we talk about second chakra energy and we talk about creativity, I feel that a lot of people think that creativity has to do with art. And not creation as a whole.
Yeah, creating the life you want is creativity.
And so a lot of people will say, well, I'm not creative. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, well, that is literally the reason you're here, whether it be to, from the outfit you put on today.
Right, I was about to say, you created this look.
Or from, the way that you did your hair, the way that you colored it, the way that your couch is situated in your home, the plants that you have,
absolutely,
the cups that you have in your cupboard. All of that is a creation to support you. Absolutely. And so it doesn't always have to be, a pen and a paper if you're a writer, or it doesn't always have to be, a paintbrush and a easel and a canvas.
Yeah, that's really encouraging. I know that people need to hear that. People need to hear that your creativity manifests itself in how you greet people. Your creativity manifests itself in how you feed yourself, how you move in your neighborhood. The energy with which you bring to a space is part of the creation of that experience. Yeah. So you want to be careful to be aware that you are always in creation mode, and your level of consciousness impacts how you do that. Yeah. So that's those things are super, super, super important. Thank you for that share.
Of course.
That's really beautiful. The next segment of Sovereign You is our Wisdom Owl segment. And I will grab this question, since you presented a book today. And today's question is, why am I not happy yet? and what will it take? So if someone came to you in the studio and they had a private appointment and they sat down and you asked them what they were doing there, what they wanted to talk about, and they said to you, I just can't figure out, I'm 35 years old and I have a job and a husband and I do what I love and I just can't figure out why I'm not happy. And when will happiness happen?
That question is being asked to me.
To you.
I would say, are you doing things because you feel you have to? Are you doing things because you are culturally programmed to do that? Like literally everybody around you has done it, so it only feels right that you do it. And are you following the things inside you that light you up? Or are you too, because I feel that some people are a little bit too nervous, or maybe I have felt in the past a little too nervous to approach things that make me feel happy inside, but to do them outwardly, to actually like be out in the world doing what makes me happy.
So your answer to them would be, are you doing what makes you happy?
Yeah.
Because how else would you get happy?
Yeah, because I don't think saying all of the like quintessential things that would make you happy, that would make someone happy. I don't think saying that you do all those things followed by you saying you're not happy, like I don't think those things inherently make you happy.
Yeah, those aren't yours to do then, perhaps.
Yeah.
Perhaps you're doing things that culture says makes people happy, but you're not a people, you're you. And there is a fundamental us, and this is the thing, and we're getting a lot more of this in the cultural language that says you're an individual. So then there could be no things that make people happy.
Yeah.
What makes you happy? That's when you'll get there. You'll get to your happy when you go to your happy.
Like I would go to the park, right? And I would like lay in the grass, and that's fine. I'm not really concerned what other people think about that. But then one day I decided I'm going to climb this tree. And so if there was any hesitation, I don't really hesitate to things that make me happy because I really don't really care what other people think about me. But if there was any hesitation in me at all, that would be a perfect example. Like, don't think about, and when I was in the tree, I didn't hesitate to get in the tree, but when I got in the tree, I was like, okay, what are other people thinking about me being in this tree?
What does it matter?
You know? And so I think that, people may not be happy or experiencing the feeling of bliss and happiness because they're too concerned what other people think about their happiness or the things that make them happy.
And I'm going to give you this riddle if I can remember it here. So I'm going to take a deep breath and say that you are not suffering from what other people think about you. You're suffering from what you're thinking other people are thinking about you. And that's still you.
No. So it's not what other people think about you. It's what you think about what other people think about you.
And you can't do that. And that's actually not even a thing. You literally cannot have thoughts about what someone else is thinking about you because you don't have that superpower. You don't read minds unless you read minds. And then even if you read minds, even if I read minds and I read that you were thinking,
because we could argue, okay, well, I can read disposition, I can read body language, I can read things like that.
But you don't know
even
why
still,
people have that disposition.
Even still, that shouldn't create some sort of hesitation. Because what if somebody is, for example, if we use the example of me getting in the tree, if somebody's face was screwed up at me, it could be that they think that that's dangerous. It could be that they think, oh my God, there's bugs in the tree.
Yeah, like
it could be a whole line of things that they could be thinking, but it should not stop you from doing what makes you happy.
Because what they're thinking has everything to do with them.
Yeah.
Their history, their experience, their imaginings. Like, I'm not going to let somebody's imaginings dictate how I live.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's kind of it. That's kind of the end of the episode.
That's kind of the end of the episode.
You want to let your imaginings, yours, what you have going on the inside of you, you want that to run your show. And you got to get in touch with that.
Yes.
It's important to get in touch with that so that what is programmed in you divinely is the thing that is running your show. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
If you are interested in seeing the live version of this podcast, the video version of this podcast, you can head over to our YouTube channel. Alayo Waste Beats has a YouTube channel. You can go over there and watch this and all of the previous episodes of Sovereign You. And
you're uploading season 1 on there too?
I am.
Nice. Okay, nice.
Season 1 is on there. So, we can play catch up. And you can please, if you would, follow us on Instagram at Sovereign You Pod. And if you have any questions for us for our Wisdom Owl segment, you can DM us. Yeah, I think that's the easiest way to get in touch with me. Yeah. I'm always on the internet. And we will put your question in the Wisdom Owl and we will get to it. Did I do everything?
No, you need to talk about Facebook and where you can find us.
Yes, you can find us on Instagram. We don't have a Facebook page. And I was telling people in the live yesterday on Facebook, we're not getting one because I have to regulate how much energy I spend in the social media space trying to market and advertise and, And so we are on Facebook, Sovereign You Pod. on Instagram. Sovereign You Pod.
And where can they listen?
And they can listen on Apple Podcasts. Or wherever you listen to podcasts, because we're all over the place. That's where we access our own podcasts and all of our podcasts that we're interested in. But you can find us anywhere podcasts are broadcast. All right. I think that's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Pleasure and abundance. My joy is now. My joy is now.